To overcome my FOMO, I pulled the owner's card, and now I get to interview some of the biggest names in our industry on the biggest topics on a show we call The Current Affairs. Now, it's taken nearly 7 years to get the person in this role on our show. So it's a huge welcome to Don Faul, the CEO of CrossFit. Don is a former US Marine Corps platoon commander with more than 8 years of CrossFit experience himself. What piqued my personal interest was he attended the United States Naval Academy, where he was a collegiate All-American in rugby. After graduation, he served as a Marine platoon commander with the 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion and 1st Force Reconnaissance Company until 2003. After his service, he earned his MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business. And he's worked in, well, let's say a few small companies, Google, Facebook, and Pinterest, in operational roles. And he's now 9 months into his tenure as CEO of CrossFit. I can't tell you how excited I am to chat with Don today. Since we launched the Fitness Business Podcast, I have personally stalked this CrossFit CEO and head office to get someone on the show. And while my background is big box owner, there is so much I love about CrossFit as a brand and even as an exercise modality. So I want to give a shout out and thanks to Tyler from Fitbench for introducing me to the right people at CrossFit to finally connect with Don. So if you haven't checked out Fitbench, while they're not a partner or a sponsor, I will put their link in the show notes, as it's a perfect piece of kit for studios, gyms, and CrossFit boxes around the world. So welcome, Don. Thank you for squeezing us in between the quarterfinals and the semifinals of the 2023 CrossFit Games. Unfortunately, mate, I didn't make the quarterfinals this year, but you probably would have suffered some sort of thumb fatigue scrolling to the bottom of the 50-plus-year-old category to find my name. Nevertheless, some of the fittest people on the planet are preparing for this incredible event. So why don't we kick off today's chat talking about the CrossFit Games? Tell us, give me some stats on participation in this year's Games.
Really, the competition season for CrossFit starts with the CrossFit Open. And while a lot of people are familiar with the CrossFit Games, where we ultimately crown the fittest on earth, what's really unique about our competition season is that we start with the Open, which is an event that allows anyone around the world in any CrossFit affiliate to take part in this global competition and season that ultimately ends with the fittest on earth. The CrossFit Open, we had well over 300,000 people register for the Open this year. It's incredible. These are, men and women, young, olds, folks who have been around the community for a long time, folks who are doing their first CrossFit competition ever. And it's an incredible time, the Open, to celebrate what brings this community together. CrossFit is not just 13,500 gyms around the world. It is truly one global community aligned around a love and passion for CrossFit, for the community, and get to celebrate that in the spirit of competition with the CrossFit Open.
Why do you think it's such a huge inspiration to people like me who know that they're never going to make the quarters, let alone the semis? I'm just somebody in a box training. Why do you think it inspires me so much?
I think the Open is really magical on a number of levels. I think, first, we get members of the community, you get up and you go to the gym every day and you put in this hard work and you push yourself and you test yourself. And once a year through the Open, you get a chance to evaluate the progress you've made. And I think for a lot of folks, it is both satisfying and motivating. So it's really exciting to see, when you have that moment of maybe a PR, a lot of people will set a personal record during the Open itself in the spirit of excitement and competition. It also can be motivating. For me this year, there were some things that I didn't perform well. And I came out of there with a determination for next year's Open to be ready to be able to really knock out that movement and be ready. So I think that's a big part of it for a lot of folks. There's also, it is such an energizing moment for the community. So a lot of our gyms will run either a community competition within their gym, or they'll host a Friday night lights competition series for the Open where the community comes together and they cheer each other on. I think it's a moment that really highlights so many of the things that really draw people to CrossFit, being together, cheering each other on, working really hard, leaving it out there. And then fundamentally, it's about a test. It's about a test of yourself, which I think for folks in our community is something that can be really motivating.
It's such a fascinating concept that we measure our success at the Open based on time or reps or whatever the case may be. But for many of the people listening today who own big box gyms, there is not that measurement often for their members. That's a big differentiator between CrossFit and big box gyms. And we'll get into that more shortly, but I just thought I would plant that seed with you. Would you agree that's a big differentiator?
Oh, without question. And that's really fundamental to the CrossFit philosophy and methodology. If you walk into a CrossFit gym, for many CrossFit gyms, at the end of every workout, you'll stand up and you write your results on the whiteboard. And that's meant to be a moment of saying, look, like our commitment to you through CrossFit is you're going to get fitter. And we've done that, I think, in an unprecedented way for people. And part of that is we're going to measure it and we're going to hold ourselves accountable individually and collectively to making progress in our fitness. And if you're not measuring that, if you're not rigorous about it, how do you know if you're making progress? And so, that exists every day within the community and in thousands of boxes around the world. It is also represented in the CrossFit Open where, we say to ourselves, yeah, can it be uncomfortable putting yourself out there and measuring things? It can, but it can also unlock a level of performance and fitness and progress that you're not going to see if you don't keep an eye on and measure your progress over time.
I think I read, and it was either you or your previous CEO said, one of our goals of the CrossFit Open is to become more inclusive and have more people participating. What does the future look like for the Open and then moving into the games over the years to come?
So I think today we have somewhere in the neighborhood of somewhere between 10 and 20% of our community each year actively participates in the Open. And beyond that, we have a number of folks who may not register officially, but they're there and they'll participate. I think for a lot of people, the Open, if they haven't experienced it before, can feel a little intimidating. Gosh, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be tested in front of my peers and folks. If you go through it for the first time, I think what you recognize is that actually it's the most supportive environment where, independent of your score, if you get after it, if you put out, if you try hard, you're going to have the most supportive, inclusive experience with people who care about you and are rooting you on. And so when we think about making, the Open more inclusive, I think it's a really special part of our community that a lot more people could benefit from and enjoy, that can help them drive better results. And so I think our job is figuring out how do we get more people to give the Open a shot so that they can see for themselves and feel for themselves what makes the Open special for today, hundreds of thousands of people. So you'll see for us a bunch of work in trying to explain it. The Open's a little bit like CrossFit in that until you experience it, until you go through it yourself, it's a little hard to explain to a person who hasn't gone through it before. And we view that as a problem that we need to solve. And so a lot of work that we'll do, that we started with this year, that we'll do going into next year, is doing a better job of communicating what makes the Open so special, what makes it so unique, and how it can be something that anybody can enjoy, independent or irrespective of your level of fitness.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. Speaking of the future, I want to plant a seed for you.
I love it.
My daughter and I both agree that CrossFit should be a demonstration sport in the Brisbane Olympics in 2032. Tia Claire Toomey is exactly the right person to push for that. What do you think?
I love it. If Tia's listening to this, I think she'd be pretty excited about that as well. Yeah, look, it's a increasingly, obviously, CrossFit is a global sport that inspires people all around the world. I mean, what better fit for something like the Olympics on that stage to celebrate competition? And how many Olympic sports are there that just about anybody on the planet could participate in, walk in the next day, sign up for a membership and be a part of the community. So I think that'd be pretty cool. And Brisbane 2032 would be perfect.
All right. I'll see you there. I'll meet you in the front
And you
row.
have to, I think it's your job now to go ask Tia and get her to sign up for that. So.
Done. After has she had the baby yet?
Not yet. Yeah.
How did you get into CrossFit? I got into CrossFit because I had a client of mine that said, I want to train you. And I went, righto, I'll give this a crack, and fell in love with it. How did you get into it?
Yeah. So it's going back, it's about 9 years now. So 2014, I was at that point, I had been active my whole life. I had played sports, I had trained. I had come out of a college career playing rugby, broke a whole bunch of things playing rugby. At that point, had to go find another sport. So I got into triathlon, where I went and broke a bunch of other stuff, and found myself in my mid-30s at this point, really limited in what I thought I could do. I had lower back problems. I had a shoulder issue, but being fit and training was really important to me. And so I was doing the 3 or 4 day a week, big box gym thing. I was running a ton. I had pretty meaningful back problems. I had a friend of mine who said, hey, what do you think about CrossFit? And, why don't we go give it a shot? And to be honest, I was reticent to try it because I had heard, hey, maybe, can CrossFit be dangerous? I've got this back issue already. And fortunately, I went and gave it a shot and fell in love with it. I got my first experience. I thought I was fit. I got smoked. I came in last in every workout. That was really motivating for me. What I didn't expect, 6 months later, my back issues had largely gone away. The focus on core strength and mobility and proper movement was transformative for me in a way that a whole bunch of stuff I had done and looking at, trying to deal with it and other pathways hadn't worked for me. And I also discovered this incredible community, so what started 9 years ago now, I've trained just about every day with a bunch of folks who are now really close friends of mine. And CrossFit, I never anticipated it would have led to a career opportunity, but have been really fortunate in that respect.
And how good's CrossFit? Because it's so much cheaper than triathlons.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to buy an insanely expensive. I have a lot of bikes in my garage. So
if we think about the traditionalist view of the fitness industry, CrossFit's always kind of sat either on the edge or even just outside that bubble. Do you consider CrossFit part of the fitness industry?
Gosh, I guess it depends how, what I'd say is CrossFit without question is, in our opinion, the most effective way to get fit and improve your health. So if that makes this part of the fitness industry, for sure. So if you're consumers who are looking to invest in something that can improve their fitness and help them improve their overall health and welfare, without question. And I think to your point, whether we sat on the periphery, what I'll say is I think CrossFit has been somewhat revolutionary in its approach. I think a model that when it came on the scene was really new, was really counter to a lot of the options and methodologies. I think it opened a lot of eyes in the industry. And I think it gave consumers a really different sort of choice and a really different sort of experience that, look back now on almost 20 years, has been pretty transformative for a lot of folks, for millions of people.
And you've actually mentioned a couple of times as a sport as well. So it kind of, unlike lots of things in the fitness industry that we do to get healthy, this is actually a sport as well. So if we're thinking about, let's go to differentiators, which we talked a little earlier about, from inside the CrossFit world, what do you see as the differentiator compared to big box clubs, HVLP clubs, or even some of the boutiques that are obviously floating around now?
Yeah, what I'd say first and foremost, what makes CrossFit different and unique, number one is the results that we drive. There's just no alternative that works better than CrossFit. If you're looking to improve your overall fitness and health, would put us up against anybody. And so I think that's been, I think that fitness has been an industry that is ripe for a lot of fads and different methodologies and modalities that rotate in and out. Every 10 years, it seems as if you've got a different set of experiences for consumers. CrossFit's been around now for 20 years. And I think it's been around for 20 years. And I'm confident it's going to be around for many, many decades, fundamentally because it works and it changes lives. So that's number one. Number two, I think, is the unique nature of the CrossFit community. There's something that is really, really special about being a part of a CrossFit affiliate, being a part of a global community, things like the CrossFit Open, these opportunities to compete in something with hundreds of thousands of other people. Where else in the fitness domain and industry do you get a chance to participate in something like that? I think our coaches and our affiliates are a huge differentiator for us. Our affiliates, the men and women who run these small businesses that change lives, are some of the most purpose and mission-driven people I've ever met. Our CrossFit affiliate owners don't get into it to make a buck, to make a shitload of money. Sorry. They get into it because they care about changing lives at the end of the day. And I think that drives a level of commitment that comes through in the care that they invest in the men and women who attend their gyms. And our coaches are, I think, the fundamentally best coaches in the industry, who are able to create this incredibly inclusive culture that can help people apply the CrossFit methodology in a way that works for them, independent of whether they've trained for a long time or it's their first day ever touching a barbell and doing an Olympic lift. These are things that you can't get in other fitness experiences that are really essential to CrossFit.
I want to take a deep dive into a couple of things you said there. And you've mentioned the word communities a lot. So, confession time, Dom, one of my favorite CrossFit boxes in the world is CrossFit Invictus down in San Diego.
It's a great gym.
And I'm often there at least once a year when I visit San Diego. In fact, we had CJ on as a guest back on show 251. And when I drop into his box, the members make me feel so welcome. They support me during a workout, and more often than not, give me that high five at the end of a session. So I would say arguably CrossFit boxes build communities better than anyone else in the fitness or even sport industry, except maybe rugby clubs. But how much is this communities thing a contributor to your members' success and even the brand success? Tell me about that.
Without question, it's essential. And it is, fundamentally so unique. It's interesting. I was traveling last week. I was in South Africa, a little town called Stellenbosch, north of Cape Town, and had a chance. When I travel, one of the things I love most about traveling is getting a chance to drop into CrossFit affiliates all around the world. And so I got a chance to pop in there, and I'd never been there before. I didn't know anyone in the community. And there is something really cool about walking into an affiliate anywhere in the world where there are elements of that experience that are consistent. It feels incredibly familiar to what you're used to. And there are parts that are really unique and interesting and new that make this community such a rich and vibrant one. But in this case, got a chance, and I walked in and did a workout. And, these members of the community that I trained with never met me before. They invited me to coffee afterwards to sit down and chat. And, where else do you have an experience like that, where you are by default, the minute you walk in, welcomed and supported as part of this community that expands beyond the affiliate itself? And so, for us, the community, CrossFit would not be what it is without the community. And that starts in the local affiliates, and it creates this incredibly supportive environment that encourages people and motivates people, that brings them back, that builds strong bonds that candidly transcend what happens inside the box. The number of stories I've been able to hear about members of a CrossFit community coming to the support of another member of the gym when something happens in their life. These bonds that are built there are so powerful, and again, transcend what happens inside the box itself. So we are incredibly fortunate to have what I think is without question, the most powerful and essential community in the fitness industry.
Give me a peek behind the CrossFit curtain. Do you train your affiliates in that, or is that organic in each affiliate? Desire to drive community?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. And one, I'd say, I mentioned this before, but we are so fortunate to have in our coaches and our affiliate owners, men and women who are just so incredibly mission and purpose driven. A lot of them come from the communities. They trained at a gym. They fell in love with it. They fell in love with the community. They saw the impact. They wanted to make that their life's passion. I think it begins with that. There's no question about it. Our job then, I really view our job at headquarters is to help these passionate, mission-driven people who want to create that sense of community with the tools and resources they need. In some cases, that comes from us. In some cases, it's about highlighting somebody like a CJ Martin who has done this so extraordinarily well and help other affiliate owners understand what he's learned and what he's done to cultivate this really special community dynamic within his gyms.
There is nothing better than going to CrossFit Invictus on Friday night lights during CrossFit Open and just watching everything unfold in front of you. And I got to come back to this community thing because it's just so inclusive that even on Friday night lights where there are just these supreme athletes are training next to someone like me and probably getting the most out of me in my workout.
Mm-hmm. It's, and I think this is, one of the areas that I think we have the opportunity to help people better understand. I think there are some of these perceptions around CrossFit, if you don't know it, that, hey, you need to be super fit to give it a shot. And you need to be someone like a Tia or someone like a Justin Medeiros, that's the prototypical member of the CrossFit community. But I think what you and I both know, what any member of our community knows, is what's so special and cool about CrossFit is right alongside of Justin can be somebody like me, or can be somebody who is doing their first open ever. And the inclusiveness and support and excitement and engagement from the community is the same for that new person, maybe even more. Honestly, that person's going to be better supported, better motivated, more welcomed by this incredible community. It consistently blows me away how special that dynamic is. And it's been a huge part of what has, I think, helped support CrossFit's growth over the last couple of decades.
I've got one more final question on the communities thing. The whiteboard at the end. That is unique to workouts. Has that always been, was that part of, CrossFit 1.0, or has that evolved over the time?
The whiteboard dynamic, if you go back, really early on, we had the CrossFit Journal was a lot of the early writings that Greg Glassman did. And the whiteboard, the notion of the whiteboard and what that represented was really core to the methodology and the philosophy from the very early days of CrossFit. And, for a lot of affiliates today, that still exists. At the end of the day, there's the physical whiteboard and you write the scores up. For other affiliates, that happens within maybe a software experience or software application. Other affiliates have different approaches to it, but that's always been core to what's unique. And one of the things that, is really important about CrossFit is this notion that we are empirically driven and that we insist on objective, observable, measurable results. Like we are holding ourselves to a standard of being the most effective way for you to get fit. And we know that's true collectively, and that's a commitment we make individually. And again, part of that is about, we're going to look at the numbers and we're going to measure our results. And that both motivates us, because I think one of the things that is generally true, I'll definitely speak to myself and for a lot of people, is when I know I'm competing against something that's measured, I'm going to work a little bit harder. Yeah. And if I'm going to work a little bit harder at a higher level of intensity, we know over time that drives better results and faster progress. There's also an element of, in recording those scores, showing people that visual tracking of progress, that's incredibly motivating. I can remember my first couple of years, the PRs don't happen as often for me anymore. But in the first year that I did CrossFit, month in and month out, being able to set new records for myself and seeing that progress was so incredibly motivating for me, and a reinforcement that the hard work I was putting in, the hard work you put in as a member of the community, is going to pay dividends. You're going to see it play out in a very objective, measurable sort of way. So that essence of the whiteboard of having the courage to put ourselves out there, having the courage to compete, seeing the progress, measuring the progress, and celebrating that within the community is really an essential part of our ethos.
I have seen a video. I've seen many videos, by the way, of community support for participants and athletes working out. And I have seen this one where there's a lady rowing, and look, I'll be honest, she's an overweight lady. She's a big lady on the Concept 2 rower. And the video is narrowed in on her while she's rowing. And you can see you can hear in the background people cheering. And as the video pulls back, you start to see all the people standing around watching her row. And she must have been the last one to finish the row of the workout. And when she finished, everybody just mobbed to her like a rock star. And I watched that video, and I watch it over and over again. And I just think that's what we should be doing in our entire industry, whether it's a Pilates, whether it's yoga, or whether it's a body pump class. When someone can achieve that for the first time, that just is so rewarding for that individual. And you guys do this in spades. So kudos to CrossFit and that community.
Yeah. What you articulate there, that experience is so powerful. And having that level of just unconditional support, having people around you cheering for you. And by the way, almost everybody in this community has been that person. I was my first, and I have moments all the time now. Like CrossFit will always humble you, and knowing in those moments, like I remember my first couple of months where you're going through these workouts that are testing you at such an extreme level, and having a group of people around you who by virtue of how they support you and cheer you on, that they are there for your unconditional success, is so extraordinarily powerful. And I think it spans, again, that's not just if I think more broadly, like we need more of that, not just in the fitness industry, like we need more of that in the world. We need more of that in our communities, where our neighbors and fellow members of our community are there rooting for each other in a way that's positive, in a way that's supportive. And so having that as part of your day, part of your week, part of what motivates you, knowing that you can get through those hard things, is without question is one of the things I love most about CrossFit, and one of the things that I think it really brings to people and it brings to communities.
I remember reading an article on that community thing. My final point from the founder, Coach Glassman. And he said, one of my goals of CrossFit is that even if Justin doesn't know Don, and Don's car breaks down, he can't get to the CrossFit box, Justin will drive over, pick Don up, and bring him to the workout. Mm-hmm. And I just think that is, again, so unique, but such a powerful message to get through to your affiliates. This is what we're trying to create.
That's right. That's right. And what's incredible is you see that happening again. It happens organically. People build relationships where they deeply care about each other. And again, that shared sacrifice, the joy and challenge of doing hard things together in a way that we support each other creates that in an incredibly organic sort of way.
Don, on the podcast, we've tried to ban the word pandemic, COVID. For many of us,
we've had enough conversation about that stuff, huh?
Oh, terrible. And it was just so horrific on our entire industry and where we were positioned and blah, 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 blah. But I want to get an idea of the future of CrossFit from your perspective. So give us a snapshot of like kind of affiliates and the love for CrossFit. Let's say pre-March 2020, then let's say January 2022 to where we are now recording this in April 23. Give us a bit of a snapshot.
Yeah, so I'll try to do that in a reasonably concise sort of way. So, if we look at pre-pandemic, let's say CrossFit 2018-ish or so had gone through, since CrossFit was founded, over a decade of extraordinary meteoric growth, right? And so going from this novel concept, a novel methodology that was really revolutionary within the industry, to fast forward 13, 14 years, over 13,000 affiliates in 150 countries around the world, a sport that had started as this really organic thing into something that is approaching a mainstream sports with elite athletes who are the fittest athletes on the planet, an incredibly vibrant ecosystem of coaches, businesses that are built in innovating in and around the community. And then, that next period was a really hard one for the world. And it was a really hard one for the CrossFit community. Because our gyms are a physical brick and mortar presence, obviously the COVID was enormously impactful. A lot of gyms had to shut their doors by mandates. A lot of gyms really struggled to kind of keep the lights on. It was a really, really hard period for the community. I think it was a period during which, in a lot of ways, our community came together. The number of stories I've heard from affiliate owners who say that such a high preponderance of their members continued to pay their membership, even though they couldn't attend.
Wow.
Because, why? Because those members cared about their affiliate owners, and they cared about their coaches, and they cared about the community. And if there is not a higher tribute to the impact that these affiliates have had on people's lives and the strength of the community, I'm not sure there's something that's much more powerful for that. But if you fast forward now, coming on the back end of the affiliates, we had a lot of affiliates who went out of business. Unfortunately, we had a lot of affiliates who really, really struggled. There's some work that headquarters tried to do to try to support that by on the fee structure to make it a little bit easier for affiliates to survive. Fast forward now, and fortunately, coming out of that, we are in a place where I think for a lot of affiliate owners, as I talk to them now, they're getting back to or surpassing pre-pandemic membership levels. There are still some who are struggling with some of the challenges around, back payments on their leases, things that come out of it. But in large part, there's this sense of growth and optimism that is playing out both in how people feel, but also in the numbers that we're seeing. That gives me a lot of confidence that we are on a path to surpass our peak point prior to COVID and grow well beyond that. And so that's what we're focused on now. The enthusiasm within the community here in the US and in our markets around the world is really high. We're seeing in a bunch of countries around the world continued really strong growth, taking things to new levels. And we're just really excited about the opportunity.
Is there a country that's just discovered CrossFit and is going off the Richter scale with success?
So I think one of our fastest growing countries right now is South Korea, actually.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we've got an incredible team in market that is doing outstanding work. We have a really passionate community there. And that's always essential to our success. We actually had a Netflix series recently called Physical 100, where the winner, they tested 100 of the best athletes in South Korea, and a CrossFit athlete won the competition. I think that has helped kind of demonstrate the power and efficacy and also drive growth. So that's been a great market for us. We have a bunch of others. Europe continues to drive extraordinary growth for us. We're seeing really strong momentum in the US as well, which is our most saturated market, but still reinforces we still have a lot of opportunity here as well.
Your job must be fascinating because on one, you straddle so much. On one side, you're trying to grow the brand CrossFit. Then there's the modality of CrossFit, and then there's the affiliates of CrossFit. I'm going to give you a question, probably without too much notice, Don. What impact do you want to have on this brand and on the thousands of members who work out in affiliates? What's your why? What are you driving here?
Yeah, I've had a bit of a weird, wonky career, right? I started in the military. I went from the military into technology for a while. Have had the opportunity to come back to one of my passions in working in fitness. And I'll say for me, the reason I love CrossFit, CrossFit's changed my life. The reason I'm working here is because I really view this as an opportunity to bring what CrossFit has done for me and millions of other people to a lot more people around the world. If we zoom out and look at the state of our society today, despite, decades of technological progress, increasing levels of wealth around the world, our society in the US and in a lot of countries around the world is becoming less and less happy and less healthy. So, in the US, obesity rates are at an all-time high for adults and for children. Mental health is plummeting, levels of anxiety, loneliness. And when I look at the solutions to those problems, increasingly the average person's being offered more drugs, more physical interventions. And I think we have something in CrossFit that we know is the antidote for so many of those things, that has the benefit of creating these incredible, powerful social connections, giving you a place where you can establish a routine day in and day out that allows you to improve your health and fitness in a sustainable sort of way without the risks and side effects of these drugs, gives you a place where you can create a sense of purpose and belonging, where there's a community of people who you can interact with in person every day, who supports you, who cares about you. I think these are things that increasingly our communities and our societies really desperately need. And so for me, that's my why. I hope I can play a really, really small role in working with this incredible team that we have and this amazing community to help more people improve their health, live happier lives, find a place and a sense of connection and community, strengthen these communities around the world. Our affiliates are doing amazing things to bring people and communities together. So that's what gets me excited every day. And yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard. And we have a really complex business. We have a lot of challenges we need to solve. We're going to reach our goals to reach 30 million people over the next 7 or 8 years. But CrossFit's hard, and achieving hard things is, I think, a huge part of what makes it so rewarding. And so I get inspired by the opportunity, and I think we as a team are really motivated by having a chance to have a really positive impact on a lot of people's lives.
I got a funny feeling you love your job.
I do. Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel really privileged that I get a chance to do something that is so much fun and so rewarding.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Don, and I'm super grateful for your time because I know how busy you are. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for being patient. I know it took a little while to make the connection, but I'm really grateful for it and really enjoyed getting a chance to talk with you today. So thank you.
Awesome. Now, I got one more bit of business. So,
Sure.
All right, our Fitbizpiration with Don Faul, the CEO of CrossFit, is this. Don, what are your top 3 suggestions for building communities in our clubs?
The first thing that I would offer, and I think you hear from our incredible affiliate owners who do a great job with this, is first and foremost making sure we're really investing in your coaches. At the end of the day, I think we all know that coaches play such an essential role in the experience for our members, for creating a community that is inclusive, that is welcoming, that creates that dynamic within the box. And so really investing in making sure that you've got an incredible set of coaches that we're continuing to invest in their development and their growth is number one. I think number 2, I would say, is I think our best communities and best affiliate owners really listen to and learn from their community, what's working. Every community is a little bit different. One of the things that I think is really magical about CrossFit is every affiliate is a little bit different. And the great affiliate owners really understand who their community is, what they love, what they inspires them, and use that to really inform how they shape, how they run their box, and how they create that great community. And then finally, the last piece is, Coach Glassman used to talk about the importance of virtuosity in CrossFit. It's core to our ethos. It's this sense of continued investment in learning, a continued pursuit of getting better. And often when I talk to some of the best affiliate owners and how they think about community, they talk about walking into their affiliate every day with a critical eye, looking at and thinking about how do we get 1% better every single day? How do we engage with members of our community? How do we support them? How do we follow up with them? How do we capitalize on that feedback? And so really investing in that consistent focus on improvement, in chasing and seeking virtuosity in everything they do, I think will play a huge role in creating that amazing, magical community.
Outstanding. That was fantastic. Thank you. And at the end of every CrossFit class, you do a high five. So there you go.
High five. There we go. Fist bump.
That was fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for taking the time. It was awesome. Really getting a chance to get to know you and really enjoyed the conversation.
Mate, if you're ever in Australia and you're ever in Sydney, happy to connect and look after you and show you around the place. Yeah, really appreciate your time and fascinating and good luck.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of fun and a lot of stuff to do. I was down in Sydney in the fall. So next trip, I'll let you know. We have an amazing community there. So
there are boxes everywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible.
I'll take you to mine. It's under the house.
Oh, nice. I love it. Awesome.
I had to build it during COVID because we're in lockdown.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of those. So I've got one of those as well.
I love the chat with Don and hope you learned as much as I did. Now, as a gym member, I've always wondered, how do I measure my progress or how do I measure my success? Of course, I can use Body Map for my body composition, but perhaps the ice cream and chocolates will seriously impact that reading. The timed workouts I do are now a critical component to my routine over a quarter, a sense of achievement. So it was great to hear Don talk about that. Finally, I want to share a little CrossFit story with you. I went to CrossFit Santa Monica many years ago and was told the drop-in visit was $20 or $30 and I got a free t-shirt. What a cool idea. So I paid the $30 and I'm still wearing the t-shirt. You can grab Don's details from today's show notes, which you'll find at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/497. You'll also want to check out the interview that we did with CJ Martin from CrossFit Invictus. And when you listen to that, you'll hear how they have such amazing merchandise sales annually. So check out that one at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/251. Thanks for joining me for our current affairs episode. And I'd love to know what you think. Drop me an email, info@fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, or go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and hit the contact button. Even better, if you love the show, hit us up on iTunes with a review. And if you've got any suggestions at all who I should talk about industry happenings with, I want to hear from you.